Welcome to Brainstorm Black. I'm your host, Charlotte Moore, and on today's episode, we have someone who I really admire. I've known him for a long time here in Austin. I refer to this gentleman as the Quincy Jones of Austin, and I say that because he's got his hands in everything: music, food, film, technology, journalism. He's everywhere, moving and shaking and weaving and bobbing. He's just all over the place. Quincy Jones of Austin. But he's also a hermit. I don't see him very much. I just hear about him and I know of him. But he's like a human hermit. Welcome to the show, Mr. Donell Creech.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm well.
Quincy Jones of Austin. I don't think you like that.
Yeah, okay. I'll take it. I'll take it.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I'll take it.
He is an inspiring producer of all sorts of things and people, and I see you that way. You're good at connecting. I know you have a passion for Black Austin, and I admire that.
Well, I like to tell people that I'm more like Russell Simmons from Def Comedy Jam. Thank you for coming out. Good night. God bless. That's it. That's all I need to do.
Yes, that is probably a more appropriate reference. Why do you seclude yourself?
Because I'm crazy.
Crazy how?
I've always said it's the difference between when you're broke, you're crazy, but then when you become rich, you're eccentric. So I'm still on the wrong side of the dollar sign to be considered eccentric and
Right.
a maverick. So I'm just crazy. So I just think differently, really. That's just honestly what it is. I just think differently than most people, and so that kind of makes it hard to navigate amongst groups and folks when you think different.
Yes.
And you're broke.
And
When you're rich, then it's all you're brilliant, you're genius, sounds good, let's do it. But when you're broke, it's like, he's crazy.
yeah, no, that makes sense. I like crazy. And I think more people than we think like crazy. We're trained to not like
Oh, yeah. Have you ever seen the commercial, Here's to the Crazy Ones?
Yes.
That's what I tell people
absolutely.
every time. You look at that commercial, 60 seconds, I'm one of the crazy ones.
Crazy, but also very, very shrewd. And you have a business sense, a business mind, unlike any other. I see that. Let's talk a little bit about what you do and who you are. Well, let's start with that. Donell Creech, who are you? Where are you from? How long have you been in Austin? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I came to Austin in 1989, like most folks to get here, back then anyway, come to UT. And just discovered that that Austin was just this wide open space of possibilities for Black folks. And so been here since '89, and I knew very early on that our destiny brought me to Austin, and this was going to be my home. So I declared Austin my home back in '89.
Nice. And what I met you were working on Griot Media and Soul City. Tell us a little bit about each of those platforms and what they are.
Well, Griot Media is sort of the parent company of pretty much everything that I do, so it's just a legal entity. Soul City is sort of the heart and soul and passion of my mission here in Austin, and it's sort of, I would like to tell people, it's Austin Chronicle and Do 512 meets the Black audience, and so we try to tell folks what's going on from the Black perspective, from news, events, and information, and as well try to connect those in the greater community who are trying to reach the Black audience. We try to be that source in between.
I mean, you cover everything. I've had the pleasure of writing for Soul City. Thank you. You cover everything. Again, music, food, lifestyle. You do hard-hitting stories. What's one of the favorite stories you've had on?
Well, I've never been asked that question. I've never even thought about it before.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I never thought about that before.
Huh.
Our most impactful stories, for sure, has been around food.
People love food.
That's what we discovered about a year and a half ago. Purely by accidents, most things happen. A writer of ours, Ashley Harris, posted an article about top 5 soul food trucks in Austin. And that story just blew up by multiples, and still today the most read story we ever had. And so it was actually that story that spawned the idea that Ashley had of doing Soul Food Truck Fest, which we launched in 2017. So that is one of the things we've come to discover, that Black people love. They love Tyler Perry, and they love food. That's what we've come to discover.
But I want to make sure people know the website, the magazine, is not only for Black people. If you're in Austin, we're 8% of the population. But if you're in Austin, no matter what race you are, go to this site to learn more about who Black people are, what we're doing, what we're listening to, all sorts of things. The Soul Food Truck Fest is a big deal. I was there last year. It was huge. It was at was it at HT?
It was behind the Carver.
That's right. And you started that. So when's the next one? Are you gonna?
It's going to be in the fall of this year.
Okay. All right, and all the information will be on your website, soulcity.com. Very good. Before we get to why you're here today, I wanted to ask you, as someone who knows the city, you've got your finger on the pulse of Black Austin, what do you think the state of Black Austin is, just generally?
Well, me personally, again, it's kind of where I'm different from everybody. I see nothing but pure land of opportunity. That's what I see, and I saw it then, and it's still here now. So that's what I see. Most folks say the opposite, that, they don't want Black folks here, they don't like Black folks here, there's nothing for Black people here. And it's, I'm a glass half full. The glass is overflowing to me. So, I'll admit that my opinion is in the minority, that everybody else will see all the things that are wrong with Black Austin, and that Austin is not. But I see nothing but opportunity.
I love what you have to say about the economy and Black people. We don't really recognize our power, our buying power. I know nothing about business and money, but that makes sense to me, the way you kind of broke that down.
That we're as a global entity, Black folks, 1.5, 1.7 trillion dollars. We'd be, if we were a nation, we'd be seventh in gross domestic product in our spending power. And the issue is that I believe personally, is that we don't corral that enough and to focus it enough to support. We have enough resources internally as a community to support our own versus always having to look for others to come in and save us, look outward to save us. If we work together internally, if I need any kind of service, I'm going to think first, second, third, and fourth, can I find a Black business? Fifth, can I find a minority or female business? Fifth, sixth, on down the road. Then if I can't, okay, then what's left? But I'm going to always check those boxes off first. And most folks, it's the opposite. They never even think about Black. They just go to Google or Yelp or ask a friend and never say, how can I support a Black business first? Which is not the same thing as I don't support white businesses. It's, just like if a woman tells me I like to support women-owned business, I'm not going to say, well, what about male businesses? Hey, great, go support your female business, right. Female founders. So Black folks should adopt that same mentality, I believe.
Be honest, when you do that, I know, when you do that, is it more difficult for you to find that business?
Well, and so that's where, entities like Soul City come into play. And you just admit you have to be more intentional, especially depending on what it is that you're looking at. But again, as I said, for me personally, it's going to be my 1 through 5 options. So I'm willing to look through 5 options. Is this the right business? Did they give the right service? Is it the right price? I'm willing to look through all 5 layers of that before I look to other options instead of just one. Well, can I find a Black business? Well, I don't know where one is, so I'm just going to go here. Yeah. You definitely have to be more intentional. I didn't say it was easy like that at all,
right.
But that's where entities like Soul City come in to help you. If you have that mindset, if you have any sort of wherewithal of mindset to support Black businesses, then we want to make it easy for you once you get to Soul City versus you having to go out and do 15 searches on your own.
Yeah.
And so we tell people, I encourage folks, when you're looking for something, ask me, ask us. We can find it probably a lot quicker than you can and give you some, 2 or 3 different options. So to your point, it's not necessarily an easy thing, but we're willing to help make that easier.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm serious. We need that. Okay, the reason you're here, though, Brainstorm Black is all about, we want it to be about looking for visionary, powerful new ways of including Black people and getting us into the whole mix of things, because we're used to being out of it. You have an idea for an organization or a group, an initiative, that I think sounds phenomenal. I'll let you describe it. I do want to say what it's called. It's called the African American Leadership Institute. What is that about?
So Ali, which was actually definitely an intended double play on the name, is a leadership program that's based off of, it's a national leadership program that they have in all cities, all states, and in Austin it's called Leadership Austin. And so it's basically a 9-month program where they bring together the best and the brightest in the community and about 50 folks in a class, and you meet once a month, and each month they bring in a subject matter expert in something related to that city. So arts, education, health, diversity, politics, etc. They'll bring in a subject matter expert for that day, and they'll address the class, and then you have some internal classwork that you do and sort of things. And the power behind it, of course, the information is good, but the real power, like everything else in college, it's the networks that you make and the connections in your fraternity, sorority. That's where the real power comes from this, and I found that to be true myself. So I did Leadership Austin actually the weekend of 9/11 because we had to postpone our opening retreat because 9/11 hit that weekend, that Friday. Wow. Remember that pretty clearly. So, and at that time, I was still just sort of getting started on some things, and so I was definitely blessed to be able to get into Leadership Austin. And then after I got to know my classmates, I was like, okay, how did I get into Leadership Austin? Wow, these folks are really doing things. But in Austin, again, this is where the opportunity is because we're such a low population for organizations who are looking to be diverse. Then they spread the net a little bit wider, so your credentials don't have to be as impressive to get into bigger, more impressive rooms, which is really, really, really. I mean, I hope people hear that. It's one of the real great secrets of being in Austin. It's much, much, much easier to get in the doors and rooms as a black person than it is if you're in Atlanta or DC or, forget about it. You're never going to get in those kind of doors unless you've been there for decades and making huge moves. But in Austin, you could be in Austin in 6 months. You could be in a meeting with the mayor easily. Anybody could.
Pay attention to that.
That is the secret sauce of why should black folks be trying to come to Austin. I tell people all the time, if you are a young, creative professional looking to do things, and even not necessarily young, but just really having willingness to do things and make things happen, you're not, I'm telling you, I'll debate anybody, you're not going to find a better city than Austin to come in and do things and make things happen.
And that's a great point because right now with our climate, there's a lot of discussion about black people in Austin and why it's not a good place. And I argue instead of focusing on that or, how can we get more people here, more black people here, kind of capitalize on the fact that we're at 8% and let's focus on the 8% here. And I love what you're saying about using that to get into the things we want to get into.
There's just so much, and with the other things that we have here, like South by Southwest, for instance, that, these are global events that happen here in Austin that are based here in Austin that you can get to connect to. So for instance, we did this, one of the other things that we do is Movement 50. We do African American Diversity Inclusion Partner for South by Southwest Interactive. I've been doing that for about 10 years. And last year we had a pitch competition. It was our second year. One of the young ladies who came and pitched in the competition, I can't pronounce her name, it's an African name, I don't want to mess it up, but her product is Naturally All Club hair product. She pitched last year, didn't even win. Yeah. A year later, just recently, like in the last couple of weeks, she got $1 million investment from Richie Lou Dennis, the founder of Shea Moisture.
Wow.
$1 million. And so she came to Austin. Surely she enjoys South by Southwest Interactive. What kind of traction could we get if we made folks like that feel welcome, who come here every year, who can see all the innovation, who are clearly, obviously, she got $1 million investment 1 year after pitching in a contest and not winning. So those are the kind of opportunities that are very, very unique to Austin for black folks who have an idea and a dream. I'm telling you, they need to be getting to Austin.
I love that. If you have an idea and a dream, do it. Come here and do it.
Get here to Austin. The support is here.
And if you're already here, do it.
Yes. There's even less of it if you're already here. If you're here and miserable, you might as well be here and turn that around and be thriving.
Right.
Because all the opportunities are here.
So a couple of more questions. With Ali, can you give us an example practically of how that would work? So what would that look like for people who don't know what Leadership Austin is like? You explained it a little bit, but if someone were interested, would they apply for this? How would it work?
Well, that's the really good news about Ali is it's a simple idea, and the model's already out here all across the country, so we're not creating something we have no idea of what it's going to look like. So when the year I did Leadership Austin, a couple of my classmates started Hispanic Austin Leadership that same year as a part of the Hispanic Chamber. And so that's when I said, we need something like that for the black community. So the idea has been sitting up on the drawing board on paper. All we're missing at this point is the funding. And so the beauty of it is, once we launched the program, if we did a smaller version, we want to start. Our target goal is to start with like 30 fellows for that first year, and the funding is going to be a little bit less expensive to get in. Like Leadership Austin's $3,000 to get in there. We wouldn't be coming out the gate charging that much, but on the other side of that, corporations are willing to pay to send their African American employees to participate in something like this. So people would sign up and they could either pay themselves or they can get corporations to pay for them. And then they come in, we'll run the program for 9 months. We'll have it all laid out. And how we tend to be different with Ali, this is where it really kind of gets effective, is rather than just making it a program just focused on the African American community, which we will do initially, we're going to really sort of position ourselves as a feeder program into Leadership Austin, because that's where we can have all these groups of empowered Black folks who know everything, but again, in Austin, we are 8%, so we have to be a lot more strategic. We can't be the only cool kids over here in the corner doing our thing. We have to go plug in with the greater good, and that's where the secret sauce to me with Leadership Austin is. So we will be sending cadres, year after year of smart, informed Black folks, polished, who have already been brought up to speed on all these various issues from the African American perspective, and then plug them into the counterpart in the greater good. And so then what happens over the course of 2 or 3 years, because all the great things that happen in Austin, Black folks usually find out about it last, if at all.
Right.
If at all.
Right.
And that's because we aren't in the meetings and the commissions
Exactly.
and the quote unquote boring day-to-day stuff in meetings that makes this stuff happen.
Right.
So
and we don't have the networks.
And we don't have the networks.
Right.
And so somebody, the committee will be meeting for a year and they come up with this great plan and they pitch it, and Black folks are like, wait a minute, where's the Black folks in this? And that name doesn't bode very well in the Black community.
Right.
So the key to Ali is that it will put people in, eventually over time, will put people in the boards, rooms, and commissions where when somebody says, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea if, and then at that stage, a Black person or the Black community has their input at the very beginning when things are still changing, malleable, and not set in stone, because when the things are set in stone, then you're going to get pushback and resistance, and we're like, well, you didn't include us, well, we didn't know, why didn't you say something?
This will let them be a part of the process of getting
from the very beginning, from all the things that are happening. Yeah, and I just got a call today, actually, very same concept about Pease Park. They got $9 million to Pease Park and trying to revitalize and bring the thing back. And they want African American input on that. But they don't want to say we want African American input. So they're trying to figure out how they can say that without getting that. And so it's like, So being able to help solve situations like that and help get the word out among all these great things that are happening in Austin. Something like Ali will let us plug into Leadership Austin, will let us plug into the communities and committees and resources to have our say. Because, the community, if you ask just about any, white person in Austin or any leadership position they're on, we love African American community. We want to help you guys. We want to make this a diverse city. I feel like they really believe it. Some people feel like they're paying lip service to it. But Ali would be a great chance to actually give them the opportunity to
kind of prove
it.
Right. Which brings us to this last part. This show is all about, I want it to also be about connecting people who have great ideas with people who have resources to make those things happen. So, and I don't care how crazy or outlandish it is, what do you need to get that off the ground?
So, and that's, again, it's actually not that crazy or outlandish. So my vision for how we needed to get it done was to raise about $125,000 working with an organization like either the Black Chamber, which we tried to do, didn't work out, or the Urban League has kind of expressed interest. Like, we find that money that we can park in an organization that already exists for the specific role of creating an executive director for leadership for Ali. And that executive director role that first year is to work on the curriculum and the strategy and getting all that stuff in place, while there's another committee that's working on the fundraising for a year. So because what we didn't want to do is task an organization like the Chamber or Urban League, who's already understaffed and under-resourced, to, hey, go pull your staff to make this happen. So we wanted somebody whose job is fully dedicated, because that's what it's going to take to launch this thing the right way. And not somebody, a volunteer, not a volunteer committee, somebody who's for 364 days, their job is to build the structure of Ali. So, $125,000 includes salaries and benefits, and then attach them to an organization to manage the admin and the structure side of that things. And then we're off to the races. I think that if we do that, tapping into the Leadership Austin Black Alumni Network, that within the course of that year, we could then find the rest of the money to get the program going, as long as we can guarantee somebody's salary for a year to build the base and the foundation of it. So $125,000 and we're off to the races.
And that's not very much.
In the scheme of things, it's nothing.
Right. Okay, so viewers, listen to that, $125,000. Anything else? I mean, really, if there's anything else that you think right now could help you realize this vision, say it.
And that's what, I really think that that's all we need from a perspective of a grassroots perspective. Because, if some, benefactors call and say, I've got a $125,000 check, now what? Then, And if we don't accomplish an Ali a year after, then that's on us.
That's on you.
So I'm not asking for somebody to give us $500,000 and they can fund everything. It's like, I want us to have some skin in the game. So I want my Black Leadership Austin alumni to really have some skin in this game.
Yeah.
And so, somebody, all we need is a boost to get us started to cover the basics. And then I think we can cover the rest from there.
I love it. Let's check with Chuka. Chuka, you've been listening. What do you think of this idea? And I could see someone like you, a young Black leader in Austin, going through a program like this. What do you think?
I think it's great. Me and my friends, who are mostly young creators, young professionals, talk about this a lot. Talk about opportunity, especially for somebody like me coming from the East Coast, moving here from New York. About getting in those rooms and having the resources that we need to build, and having the spaces, the physical infrastructure that we need to build. So I'm in full support of creating like opportunities like this, leadership programs like this to help nurture those individuals.
Awesome.
And so he's a prime example of what we're talking about. Another reason why Ali would be so effective is because you do have folks with tons of talent coming from all over the world, because everybody is trying to get to Austin except for Black folks. But they come here for various reasons and drips and drabs from corporations, and they get here and they've got this talent and drive, and they have an idea. They go off and they try to start something from scratch. And then anybody who's trying to do anything in Austin, you will learn that you will run into some resistance from us first. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm trying to help. And so Ali would smooth that path to give an option to the talented folks to come in so that they can plug in much easier, much faster, and get to work. And then ultimately what happens is, just like any fraternity, like UT has a strong alumni foundation, we get them locked into Austin.
Yeah.
So that, even if they leave, Austin still, when they're ready, it's an option for them when they're willing to settle down or willing to come back to Austin. So we can get them hooks in them and get them creating and producing things here in Austin, versus they come here for 2-3 years, they try something, they can't connect, they can't get any support, they leave and they never come back.
They set up roots.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they can then have a foundation to build on.
Ali would easily help people who have drive and inspiration to set those roots and then either stay or definitely come back.
I love it. I love it, and I appreciate your being here and talking to us about it, coming out of your man cave, and you have beautiful eyes. It's very hard to concentrate.
In the script? Is this in the script, Chuka? Is this?
It's true.
Cut.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
And I'd love to have you back.
There's nothing else to talk about.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of Brainstorm Black. We will see you next time. Thank you.